Gods change just like people change. Based on how one relates to a god, based on what kind of worship or offerings or the culture someone is from, relating to that god, a god can change like people can change. It usually depends on how vast the god is and how many of a certain culture or a certain predisposition are relating to that god in this or that way. I'll give an example. Now, this is a human example, but gods change like humans. When Alexander the Great conquered Persia, Darius was killed by his entourage, his high-ranking officers. But when Alexander the Great basically, found out Darius died and killed the officers that eventually killed the officers and generals that turned on him, because Alexander the Great wanted to be the one that killed him. And he thought that how Darius died was kind of a bad death, a treacherous death. When he gained mastery and rulership over Persia, he set up, his base of operations in the Persian capital, very developed city, and he started to follow the same customs as Persians, the Persian court specifically. He would dress in, Persian robes, very fine silk, purple, I believe, and the court customs that he dealt with people in Persia through were very Persian. He did that on purpose. He, married a Persian wife as well. And he actually, the only way that he was able to conquer Afghanistan was not to kill. He killed everyone that went against him in Afghanistan, but the way that he secured it was through marriage. But Afghanistan, even during Alexander the Great's time, was not necessarily Persia. So the older Macedonians, those who had been with him since he was in Macedon, king of Macedon, they didn't like the changes that happened. They didn't like that he's promoting Persians to high military rank and places of political power. But having conquered the region, he made the very wise decision to change, to operate a bit differently than he had before. Does this mean that he became Persian? No, but he added the Persian facet to who he was. He carved off another side of the gemstone that was himself and made that facet, when he was dealing with the Persians and even others, he gained that Persian facet. Very similar with gods and human beings. When we have dealings with people, when we interact with people, we change. People change us. Our situation changes us. How we relate to the world based on the events that happen and the people we relate to changes. Odin, I think, has also gained facets over his, time as a god. Odin, one of the first archaeological, confirmed names that we have of Odin is Wodenaz, which means rage and fury. But anybody who knows Odin, knows about him, knows that he has so many more facets. Maybe only a few facets at the start, but then as things happen, as events evolve, as human beings relate to him in various ways, he changes, or at least he gains more facets. Changes as well, I'm sure, but gaining more facets brings change. You become more complex, you become more intricate, more specific in a lot of various ways. And it's very similar with Thor. You know, his name, you know, in more Slavic areas, Porn. It's not Thor, it's Porn. And some people say that's, you know, the old Nordic way of saying his name is Porn. Or Thonar is very Slavic as well. So what I'm getting at is, as we relate to gods like Odin, in different ways, as our, you know, our mindsets change as human beings, as we start being able to do more things that we weren't able to do before and understand things that we weren't able to understand before, our recognition and our offerings and our relationship to a being like Odin will change that God's expectations of us and how he relates to us. Is it viable to put Odin in, you know, have a picture of Odin and have him in blue jeans? I mean, it could work. The core of a god, the core of a being, and even a human being, might always remain the same. But as things happen for a human being, they change. As things happen, a god also changes. Gods are not stationary and unmovable in regards to their composition, their personality. The core might be the same, but things change. And the gods are not always beyond time and events and things that happen. Most of the time, I think they will be affected by time, events, and what they're offered and who's offering to them. It's, I'll give some more examples. So, Baal, B-A-A-L, not Belial, but Baal, worshipped by the ancient Carthaginians. Now, there were sacrifices of babies and things like that, but I think that this god existed even before he got babies being sacrificed to him. But did those sacrifices change him? Probably. And now we have the demon prince Baal. And people will be like, you know, he's an ancient god. He's not, you know, he wasn't created by Christianity. He wasn't originally demon prince. That's true. But based on people's relation to him, what he was offered, and the crowd that he can bring to him now, he's changed. Even a god can turn into a demon prince, if, depending on the situation, the people that are offering to him and things like that. Moloch in the Bible used to be an agricultural god. Some people say he still is. But, you know, once human sacrifices and those who relate to him are darker in nature, that changed him. Paimon. Paimon, to me, another demonic prince mentioned in the Goetia, he always felt like a god of wealth. And he has a very, like, Apollo-like traits as well. But based on the people that work with him, that offer to him, he has changed into something like a demonic prince. Christianity changed a lot of these beings. Not so much Odin, and definitely not Kali Ma. Kali Ma to me is so vast that she is relatively unchanged compared to even Odin. Now, keep in mind, I'm a follower of Odin and Kali Ma. But understanding these beings, Kali Ma is very vast. Odin, a little bit more confined to here, but also, you know, this universe being the center, not necessarily the Earth, but this universe being the center of his cosmological and, you know, plans. It's like, you know, Lu of the Tuatha De Danann in American Gods, the show. Very good show. Look up Lu or Mad Sweeney in American Gods. Basically, you know, Irish people that still believed in Lu hundreds of years ago brought him here with them to America. and kind of a new kind of Lu was made, or traveled, depending on how you look at it. Does that mean that it changed the Lu that has always existed? Not necessarily, but facets were created. And eventually it got downgraded so much that, the one we think of as, leprechauns, like Lucky Charms, the guy on Lucky Charms, the leprechaun, that was originally Lu. And we culturally appropriated him so much and changed him so much. By the way, I'm part Irish. And, usually I'm mostly Northwestern European, mainly Norse. But anyway, changed him so much that it became like a brand, like a Lucky Charms. Leprechauns in Irish folklore were not small. They were very tall, and you did not want to mess with them. Lu, god of the sun, god of light, god of skill. Lemfada, long hands, because of his skill with a spear. This being, over time, got downgraded to a leprechaun. How this process happens, it's not for me to, I don't know the exact details of, it depends on the being, to be honest. But gods can change. You can have an Odin in blue jeans. You might even be able to have a Kali Ma in a full black suit. Like a tuxedo, but with a tie. It's a really weird way to describe it. The source remains the same. The focus is different. But the focus changes a being, a human being, based on who's focused on him or her, or they. And the gods, to a lesser extent than human beings, but most certainly the gods can change as well. I feel like that I need to talk about this more, but for the sake of this video, this is all I'm going to talk about it for tonight. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or you want me to continue this dialogue, feel free to shoot down in the comment section below on YouTube. This has been a video about how the gods can change. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to contact me at www.facebook.com/hunter.salazar, HUNTER.SALAZAR. You can contact me there, contact me through Facebook Messenger. It's the best way to contact me. The one that I will reply to most is Facebook Messenger. But otherwise, subscribe to this channel if you like this kind of content. I have a lot of different kinds of content. And hit that like button down there because it really helps out the channel. Just hitting that thumbs up down there really helps. At any rate, I hope to hear from you all in the future. And all of you, have a wonderful day.